Sometimes we need to learn the difference between good staples and situational extenders or play protectors. Let's go ahead and break down that wall today.
Welcome to the Coalition of Scrubs, and yes, that was all of our collective natural voices singing.
I'm the man, I got the plan. When it hits the fan, do all I can, do all I can.
Hello, Subscrubs. Welcome to another D-Time, the place you go to find yourself some scrubby techs or even see if a card is slightly worth running. Today's target is going to be Triple Tactics Talents, the culmination of 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh's former most powerful cards, right up until they got banned. But before we get into that, be sure to check out everything down in the description, including the links to my channel as well as everyone else in the Coalition of Scrubs, the playlist with more of my content here on the channel, the Coalition's public Discord server, and the chapters for this video so you can navigate your way around more easily. Treading on into the video, we will be breaking this specimen of cardboard down to its 3 cores, discussing its usefulness and its pitfalls, covering alternate options, then finally assessing whether or not this card is valuable enough to be played. With a small stride, let's begin discussing the effects of Triple Tactics Talent. In summary, you have a card that can be a Pot of Greed to draw 2 cards, a Forceful Sentry allowing you to steal a card from your opponent's hand and force it back into their main deck, or you can claim the option to have a Change of Heart effect to claim an opposing monster as your own without targeting it. Feasting your eyes and ears upon this information might overwhelm you with the incredible power of this card, but there is one lock standing in the way of these incredible abilities. The only key to opening it is held by your opponent. To be able to utilize any of the mechanics previously listed, your opponent must have activated a monster effect during a main phase of the turn you wish to activate Triple Tactics Talents. Oh, and you can only activate one of these cards per turn. Splish Splash, it's time to dive into this trash. It clearly goes without stating that this card has potential, but only in the right scenario. Picture this, you're going first against dinosaurs. You slap down a search card and you get hit with the Ash Blossom. Well, guess what? It just so happens you have that Triple Tactics Talents in your hand. The stars have aligned for this moment. Now you can draw an extra 2 cards. Hooray! You look at the extra advantage in your hand, which is actually only the normal 5 cards, but it feels satisfying nonetheless. But alas, all you drew was garnets that you had in your deck for a specific fusion monster intended for the end of your combo. Link to its review in the card up in the top right. With nothing else of value in your hand, you end your turn and Big Daddy Dino comes in and brings you to extinction. The game is now over, and you are wishing that those 3 extra slots in your deck were used for something of value that might have been able to save yourself in that situation. Fret not, fellow deck builder. We all run into problems like, if only I had one more turn, or if only I drew this card instead of my brick. We all know that feeling. This is not the time to beat yourself up. This is the time to analyze your deck choices and decide if they are actually worth it. While the bonuses of TTT are relevant in the current metagame, and likely will be for several formats, the restrictions of such power seem to be the undoing of this device. The odds of drawing this card at the same time your opponent draws the means to stop a crucial play of yours that is indeed a monster card and not, say, a spell or trap negate, are not optimal. Should the situation arise where these 2 events occur, there is no guarantee that it will aid you in returning to full potential from this setback. The risk hardly seems to be worth the reward, especially if your intent is to play with real cardboard. The value of this particular spell is far too high. But we will finish up with that later as we pass on now to the potential replacements of this lackluster invention. Now that Called by the Grave is limited on Konami's ban list, budget players like myself have to resort to alternate options to protect us from being hand-trapped, or at the very least exact our revenge against our antagonist. The first option to discuss is one that started to observe much more regular play just a short time ago. Appointer of the Red Lotus is an interesting trap card that is exceptionally useful when you are cognizant of possessing the first turn of play. Holding the ability to activate this card upon one of your opponent's early phases and plunder a card from their hand at your own will is not one to be taken lightly. Not to mention, the card becomes banished until the end of their next turn, effectively removing that card until the end of the game. Given the modern format doesn't like going past more than 2 turns, Anywho, all this card requires is that you have at least one item in your hand to reveal to your opponent, and to sacrifice 2,000 measly points of your life total. With how much utility this card can provide, it's a worthy side deck option for games 2 and 3. Next on the docket is the Pot Brothers. That's right, avarice, desires, and extravagance will get their time to shine in this video. Being surrogates, especially much cheaper ones, these cards will still provide your deck the ability to withdraw 2 further cards from your deck, obviously with separate costs for each, and avarice being more of an extender / win more card than an opener, they are easily far more reliable than triple tactics talents, as they can be activated at the will of the user and not requiring previous specific interaction from the other player. Furthermore, for substitutes is Parallel Exceed. Ignore your disbelief of this claim. When looking for extenders, I have to say that this card far exceeds the potential of TTT. Any deck that can link summon a monster with a down arrow, or side one if in the main monster zones, can special summon a Parallel Exceed, and then another one, and then, well, that's it. But when they are summoned by their own effects, they become level 4. This allows easy access to rank 4 monsters, such as Abyss Dweller, Baguska, the Terribly Tired Taper, number 39 Utopia Double, and several others, which can make for some great opportunity to face the opponent. Not only that, but if rank 4s aren't to your liking, you can extend them into further link fodder and climb up the ranks. Smoke Grenade of the Thief has gained some popularity in our current standing format, that it also deserves a place as a useful stand-in for TTT. Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles, a generic level 9 synchro monster, allows this card to see as much utility as it does right now, with the exception of other cards like Rocket Tracer and Unchained Abomination that can destroy cards on their own field. Thanks to Charles, whenever an equipped spell becomes attached to a monster on the field, he is capable of destroying one item on board, including Smoke Grenade, allowing its effect to trigger and raise a card out of the rival's hand and let it plummet to the grave. In effect, this is able to accomplish the same task as Triple T, but also be more consistent and provide capability to extend even further or complete even stronger plays than simply retaliating to a loss by reciprocating the situation onto another. After all, an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. It is exceedingly better to dislodge their eye from their cranium and juxtapose yourself to a safer destination, preferably one that doesn't sit beneath a rock. In search of a replacement for the Change of Heart effect on Triple T, the best that can be located is Borlo Dragon. And no, this one isn't savage. The mostly generic and easy to summon Link 4 monster is able to appropriate a contending monster without placing a target on it, at least until the end of the next turn when it is forced to be sent to the graveyard. Oh, and the icing on this delicious cake? Borlo Dragon cannot be targeted by monster effects, and it can lower the attack values of any monster it wishes, as spell speed 4 no less. This effect comes up more often than one would expect. Having covered some interesting replacements for an exorbitantly priced piece of cardboard with little function, I shall bring this video to a close. But first, some final notes before we leave. While Triple Tactics Talents is inarguably a sterling staple that is able to fit into any deck, the requirements to use it make for a very difficult choice as to whether or not the value is worth the cost. The answer is most likely not. This card makes sense for online play, but for about $100 per copy, this one is simply not acceptable for in-person games, especially with no major events taking place at the current moment. We would all do best to save our wallets for the time being and wait of a reprint sometime next year when we can hopefully get real events, and until then, use some more budget-friendly options. With no more items to discuss, I will now prepare to take my leave. But first, thank you all so much for your support on this channel so far. It is astounding how many of you choose to support us, and if you wish to continue that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content, as well as hitting that like button so we know that you enjoy what we're making. If you're looking for more content from me specifically, my channel will be linked down in the description for you to go check out once again, as well as the other members of the coalition. Thank you guys for joining me today in this card discussion. I hope to see you all in the next one. Remember to have fun and make your move. Peace out.
Blacks.